This is a story about a true femme fatale, a woman who could drink any man under the table, who inspired La Dolce Vita by Fellini, whose love of bullfighting led her to Spain, where she hung out with the likes of Ernest Hemingway. From this small town of Smithfield, she became Hollywood royalty. Under this simple tombstone lies Ava Gardner. She was born Christmas Eve, 9 miles from here in the small town in North Carolina called Smithfield. Let's take you there. Well, here we are walking down the sidewalk of Smithfield, North Carolina, home of Ava Gardner. Actually walking the same street that she used to walk 8 miles into town to go to the movie theater. She was so enamored with the movies, especially her mom's favorite star, Clark Gable, would be appearing in Red Dust. Little did we know that Ava Gardner would become a movie star and actually star in the remake with Clark Gable called Mogambo. Not a whole lot has changed around here. It's very much like it used to be. The cars are newer, a few things have changed, but the movie theater is still there. Just like that, here it is, the Howell Movie Theater, where Ava Gardner got her first look at what it would be like to be a movie star on the big screen. Things were tough during the Great Depression, especially for poor farmers like Ava's parents. They actually moved away from this town and took the 7 kids to Newport, Virginia. They didn't stay there long, as Ava's father died when she was 16. And her mother moved the family back here, where she ran a boarding house. And Ava moved to Wilson, North Carolina, to pursue secretarial studies. When Ava turned 18, she went to New York City to visit her eldest sister. That's when everything changed. It was there that a clerk from a movie theater associated with MGM spotted photographs that her brother-in-law, a commercial photographer, had placed in the window of his studio. The clerk suggested the pictures be sent to MGM. The famed movie studio recognized her extraordinary beauty and gave her a screen test, although it was made without sound because no one could understand her heavy Southern accent. She was quickly offered a 7-year contract and diction lessons. Soon after arriving in Hollywood, Ava met and married Mickey Rooney.
Ava and I would like to thank everybody for their many good wishes, especially our boss, Mr. Louis B. Mayer. Thank you very much.
The marriage ended less than a year later, due in large part to Rooney's constant womanizing. She quickly rebounded with millionaire playboy Howard Hughes, and then married bandleader Artie Shaw, who was an ex-husband of her best friend Lana Turner, who advised Ava against the union. That marriage also lasted less than a year. Ava's big break came in 1946 when she was cast in The Killers, opposite Burt Lancaster.
I hate brutality, Mr. Anderson. The idea of 2 men beating each other to a pulp makes me ill.
Other films soon followed, including The Snows of Kilimanjaro, Mogambo,
Big Congo Casanova's been after your wife ever since she's been here. And she's been sport enough to hold him off. Well, tonight he got her over here on the pretext...
which starred opposite her mother's favorite star, Clark Gable, and for which she received an Oscar nomination. The Barefoot Contessa.
I've heard of him. He is the owner of Texas.
He's just bought California, too.
And now he wants to buy me.
Not exactly.
And The Sun Also Rises, an adaptation of Ernest Hemingway's novel of the same name. By now, Ava was a certified star. It's a far cry from the house that Ava Gardner lived in, but her mother still ran as a boarding house while she watched her daughters rise to fame and stardom. In fact, the whole town watched as Ava became a major movie star. It's the real small-town girl making it big story. In 1951, she made headlines when legendary crooner Frank Sinatra left his wife to marry this femme fatale. The tumultuous relationship lasted 8 years, but spawned a lifelong friendship. Following her divorce, Ava moved to Spain, where she befriended writer Ernest Hemingway and fell in love with bullfighting. Mostly retired from acting, Ava moved around Europe, eventually settling in London. On January 25, 1990, having spent the past few years plagued by ill health, exasperated by a lifetime of heavy drinking and smoking, Ava Gardner succumbed to pneumonia. She was 67 years old. The town that cheered Ava Gardner on continues to honor her legacy. Smithfield has a wonderful Ava Gardner museum. Let's go inside and check it out. Wow, this is really a wonderful opportunity, the Ava Gardner Museum. You know, I can't help looking at Ava Gardner without thinking about my TV mom, Yvonne DiCarlo. A lot of similarities in their careers, even in their looks. They both were wonderful, huge Hollywood royalty, above the line type of stars. I can't wait to get inside and see what else this beautiful museum has to offer. A lot of the interesting stories, for instance, Ava with Gregory Peck. I once auditioned for To Kill a Mockingbird. I didn't get the part, and I was very bummed because I really wanted to do that part with Gregory Peck. But as you walk through this whole museum, it's a who's who of who she, Ava Gardner, whose life she touched, and it was quite extensive. It's kind of the 6 degrees of separation in Hollywood when you walk around and see people who you've worked with and they've worked with and this and that. It's kind of a who's who. Look at this over here. Huge Night of the Iguana. Deborah Carr, Sue Lyon, Richard Burton, and Ava, of course. And actually, I guess Elizabeth Taylor was on the set to keep an eye on Richard Burton, and we all know why. Bad boy Richard. I really like this particular display of the old pals because of Ava and Gregory Peck were like best friends, and that's, in Hollywood, that's kind of hard to come by. Look at the waist on this dress, if you can see through the glass, 18 inches, amazing. I mean, that's crazy small, but she wore that dress. Now, I gotta tell you, if you find yourself in Smithfield and you're an Ava Gardner fan, and even if you're not an Ava Gardner fan, you'll become an Ava Gardner fan, you must come visit this museum. It is beautifully laid out, tastefully appointed. It's got the Hollywood side of Ava Gardner and the country girl side of Ava Gardner. It's wonderful, it's a nice balance, and the people here are very knowledgeable and very polite. So if you get down here, you're gonna have a very good time. I highly recommend it. Ava visited Smithfield from time to time, but she spent most of her last 30 years splitting time between Spain and England. But after her passing, as her last request, she asked to be buried next to her parents in her beloved Smithfield. She wanted to come home, and Smithfield was happy to have Ava come back one last time. Well, I hope you enjoyed the segment, and as always, we really appreciate you watching, and if you get a chance, please share with your friends, subscribe, and ring the bell.